So we've just seen all the different ways that we can proactively conserve our energy. So right now we are going to switch focus and we're going to look at all the different ways that we can charge our energy, and we're going to look at it per category. Before we go to each category, I want to come back to our phone analogy for a moment. And I want to highlight the fact that depending on the type of phone, Google, iPhone, Samsung, and others, there are going to be different types of chargers that work for each of these phones. And I'm saying this to highlight the fact that each of us is unique. And what's going to charge each of us is going to be very different. So we cannot say, well, because something worked for one person, it's going to work for the other. And that's why I'm going to go through all of these lists to show that there are so many different options available to us that we can choose from, and we don't need to just stick with one option. The other thing that I want to highlight is the fact that, and again, I took a picture of my screen and I did a search, and I wanted to find different ways. I have an iPhone, different ways to charge my iPhone. And so even within having my iPhone, yes, I can charge it into the wall. And today, with technology, the advents of technology and so on, we see that there are many different ways that we can charge our phones. And it doesn't simply have to be charging it into a wall. I can have a case with a battery pack embedded. I can have a separate battery that I can charge my phone with, a portable battery. I can charge my phone in my car. I can charge my phone wirelessly. I have numerous options, and I don't just have to, again, rely on a charger that plugs from my phone into the wall. Again, the same with us. We shouldn't rely on just one method of charging. When I have my phone and I leave the house, I ensure that I'm able to charge my phone in my car and that there are going to be other charging options. Depending on what activity I do during the day, will also determine what type of charging options I'm going to take and plan in preparation to make sure that I constantly am able to charge my phone and I won't be left in a situation where my phone battery is going to run out. So I encourage us all to have multiple ways to charge ourselves in all the various categories and not just rely on one way. Before we go into all of those different ways, I want to also highlight the fact that I believe that we are being brainwashed. When I go around and I am exposed, I never really appreciated just how much the messages are coming at us to engage in, let's say, unproductive or maladaptive coping methods. I grew up, and a lot of the information that I've been presenting today and that I'm going to continue to present in the upcoming videos wasn't necessarily around when I was younger. So I didn't learn all of these things when I was younger. I literally only learned a lot of this just a few years ago. And I want my kids to know about all of these things. So it's only when I learned about self-regulation and I learned about these triggers and I learned about what are the proper coping mechanisms that my eyes were really opened, and I started looking around and seeing just how many messages are coming at us on a daily basis, helping us make the decision to engage in things that might not necessarily be the best for our bodies or our brains. So this is just some that I was able to easily access. By no means are these the only ads that I found, but we have ads where we're being told that alcohol will help calm us just like we are on a vacation. That junk food is going to give us enough energy so that we're going to be able to think properly. That caffeine, and yes, I recognize and I'm very well aware of all of the scientific research and literature out there, or not all of it, but I'm aware that there is scientific research and literature around how we can use caffeine to increase our performance. So I know it's out there, and like with everything, it's not a good or bad trigger. I just want to indicate how much we are being pushed subliminally into thinking that these are the only ways, perhaps, that we're going to charge our batteries. So this coffee cup with a battery signal and the charging is genius. I love this ad. I think it's amazing and how they attacked it and present it to the world. And I also wonder, are we really taking a step back to think, what are they really sending us as messages? And then finally, this middle image where I've recently heard of people going to get IVs in order to increase their energy, in order to help their mood and their brain health, amongst other things that you could see here. But I picked those in particular because they're related to self-regulation. And so, are these the only things that we're going to turn to in order to charge our batteries and to finish the stress response cycle and to go into parasympathetic mode? Or are we going to start engaging with healthier options? Being from the pediatric cancer world, we're constantly told that there really isn't a cause for pediatric cancer, well, there is, but it's not something that we can control. Whereas for adult cancers, the majority, and I don't remember the exact statistics, but the majority of adult cancers can be prevented because they are caused by lifestyle decisions. So if we can prevent and we can have some sort of control over the cancer rates by the lifestyle choices that we're making and that we're engaging in, then perhaps we can start making better decisions. So with that, let's look at all the various methods and techniques that we can engage in to help charge our energy. So we're going to start on the biological with the biological category, specifically the physical subcategory. So sleep. This is one of the major things that we can do for our nervous system, for our brain especially. Sleep is so powerful and yet so elusive for so many people. And I recognize how hard it is for people to get not only the quantity, the quality, and what I've recently learned, we want to have routine and we want to also think about our sleep chronotype. From someone who was a bad sleeper from childhood, self-labeled bad sleeper from childhood all the way up until just a few years ago, I can tell you that I know firsthand how elusive sleep and sleep issues, or rather sleep, can be. And I know the struggle, the anxiety around sleep, which only makes falling asleep even worse. I lived that almost every single day of my life. And so through understanding sleep better and learning about all the things that contribute to poor sleep and good sleep, I started changing my sleep routines. I started changing my habits, starting from the minute I wake up. What I do has an impact on my sleep later that day. So I have created, because sleep is such a huge thing, I have created a sleep playlist with tons of videos talking about sleep by experts, sleep experts, who really are going to help you explain and really help you understand sleep and everything that goes into sleep to help you. Additionally, because I'm such a huge fan of emotional freedom technique, EFT, or called tapping, I've also created a playlist entirely of tapping videos to help people fall asleep, fall back asleep, stay asleep, all of the above. So I have those two videos and I encourage playlists on YouTube, and I encourage you to check them out. The next is hydration. So making sure that we're getting enough hydration and electrolytes. I'm not going to give amounts that we have to drink. And most recently, actually, I heard that it's not necessarily the amount either. What we really want to pay attention to is having the lightest or clearest urine. And that is a very good indicator of how hydrated we are. The darker the urine we have, the more dehydrated we are. And hydration for our brain is critical. If you Google brain images of a dehydrated brain compared to a hydrated brain, you will see, literally see, how important hydration is for our brains. The next is nutrition and supplementation. So what we're putting in our bodies, the foods, the micronutrients that we are putting into our bodies can have huge effects on our brains and our nervous systems. And so when I look at food now, I'm looking for foods that are going to nourish me and give me energy on the long term, and not short bursts of energy that may leave me even more lethargic and tired and with even less energy once it's been processed through my body. In terms of supplements, I take supplements. I'm not going to share them with you because I believe that this is a very individual decision. Not only that, I also, am not an expert, and that's the most important. This is not my area of expertise. Nutrition, diet. I encourage you to either see a nutritionist, a naturopath, and especially a pharmacist, because if you choose to engage with supplements, many of them have direct adverse reactions to medications. And so you really want to make sure that whatever you're taking is not going to adversely react with a medication that you're taking. For instance, greens are all the rage right now. And in a lot of greens powders, we will find ginkgo biloba. And what I've learned is that ginkgo actually negatively interacts with a lot of meds. For instance, my asthma meds, it interacts with and makes them less potent. And it also interacts with ADHD meds. So some of them. So I'm just putting it out there that if you're going to supplement, always be sure to speak with your pharmacist to make sure that what you're taking doesn't interact with any drugs that you may be taking as well. Nature and natural light, two critical ingredients for our well-being. We were not meant to be in buildings, closed boxes all day long. We are meant to live outside, to be and engage with nature. We are meant to be exposed to sunlight and natural light as much as possible. And with increasing quantity, not even frequency, with increasing quantity, we're not even, forget about engaging with nature, we're not even getting the natural light that our body so desperately needs. And we're getting artificial lights everywhere. And so it's not necessarily the blue lights that are the problem, it's not engaging with natural light. And so in the sleep playlist, I have also included some videos by experts on the importance of natural light and the types of light we need throughout the day. So I encourage you to check that out. And in terms of nature, I'm starting to see studies and hear about studies looking at the effects of being in nature on our nervous systems and how it helps us bring on the parasympathetic, especially if we're in an area near a lake or an ocean and the water with trees around it is particularly calming. So bear that in mind. We also have breathing exercises or breathing techniques, and how we can harness our breath to either bring more focus or to bring about calm is very, very powerful. Our lungs are super powerful, and our lungs have the most vagus, the way I like to call it, the most vagus nerve endings. And so we can actually trigger our parasympathetic system through breath work. I also want to highlight the fact that some breath work is very triggering for people. So again, if you know this about yourself, or you notice that when you try engaging with some breath work techniques from YouTube videos and so on, and you're finding yourself triggered, I encourage you to work with a breath work expert or practitioner and not go about this alone. Exercise and sports, we've all heard about the benefits of exercise and sports. I am not going to go into all of that, but it's definitely one way to charge your internal battery in the physical category. I have created also a playlist on exercise and fitness that you can check out, and look, and just knowing that there are so many options, from karate to hockey to tennis, wrestling. There are so many options that it's almost impossible not to find something that we like. And we can do solo, we can do team. The options are endless, and we really need to just examine, okay, what are our barriers to entry here, and start figuring out the workarounds all of those barriers. Yoga is one that I never thought I would be interested in until about 5 years ago, and I really started exploring this technique, this method, this lifestyle, and I really got into it. And the types of yoga that I've been getting into have varied depending on where I've been over the past few years. So right now, my two favorite ways to engage with yoga are yoga nidra, right before I go to sleep, and restorative yoga, which I tend to incorporate on the weekends. And so how we can engage with yoga with things that we didn't even think that we could engage with before, that we didn't even know about before. I don't know if I'm the first one to share with you the fact that there's such a thing as yoga nidra and restorative yoga versus what we traditionally see in videos and on TV, and we hear about and we see in studios. So I encourage you to learn about yoga and to see, is this something that you want to partake in and try? And again, there are, for some people, yoga can be extremely triggering depending on your previous life experiences. And there are yoga practitioners and yoga teachers who specialize in working through those issues. And so it's important, if you know about what could be triggering for you in yoga, that you reach out to someone who has a specialty in that area. And because I mentioned that I'm an EFT practitioner, I am very biased and feel that EFT is a great way to increase our energy naturally. There's also Qigong and Tai Chi are two amazing practices that I have tried. They're not things that I tend to gravitate to. I tend to gravitate to others, but they might be things that you might want to gravitate more to. And then there's energy medicine. And I've also been learning more about this. And I have found some lovely energy medicine techniques that have helped me in times of need. And as my life changes, I bring in many of the techniques from energy medicine. And so I'll leave some links. I haven't created energy medicine playlists necessarily, but you can definitely look up Donna Eden on YouTube, and you will see tons of energy medicine practices there. So there's another one that I haven't had listed on this slide, and it's cold and heat exposure. Extreme cold and extreme heat exposure. So it's entirely possible that this is something that you're going to be interested in engaging with. I have personally tried ice baths and loved it. I take cold showers every morning, and it's something that I've enjoyed. And it's a personal challenge that I had set for myself a year ago now. And I've really enjoyed it. And so it might be something that you also will enjoy. The benefits for cold exposure and extreme heat exposure seem to be coming in more and more, and they're incredible. So join me in the next video where we're going to talk about charging your energy, staying in the biological category, but moving into the subcategory of emotion.